Masugu was particularly on edge that morning as he overheard some of his female colleagues talking in hushed tones about a possible romance brewing within the office. Shizuno, one of his charismatic seniors in the accounting department, approaches him with her usual playful demeanor and nudges him, asking his opinion on the topic. He responded carefully, expressing that he didn't think romance between coworkers was a good idea. Before the conversation could continue, Maria, their no-nonsense junior, made her presence known. She reminded everyone that they should be focusing on their work, clearly irritated by the ongoing chatter. Shizuno got the hint, quickly dismissing the conversation of their other office mates and telling them to return to their desks. The morning didn't improve when Yui stormed into the room, visibly annoyed. She confronted Masubu about a receipt he had submitted, claiming he was supposed to handle it. Masubu counters her accusation, stating that it wasn't part of his responsibilities and that she should deal with her own tasks. Frustrated, Yui snatches the receipt back and huffs at his refusal to help. She insults him one more time before storming off the office. Their colleagues exchange glances, wondering why the two always seem to be at odds despite joining the company at the same time. After the workday ended, the atmosphere shifted entirely. Yui greeted Masugu warmly when he arrived home, apologizing for her earlier behavior. Masugu felt relieved, having half expected their earlier spat to escalate into something worse. Yui admitted that she panicked earlier and didn't know how to act around him while maintaining their charade at work. As Masugu washed his hands, he reflected on the difficulty of keeping their relationship hidden. Their constant coldness toward each other in the office was exhausting, and he wished they could be more open about their feelings. He handed Yui a bottle of beer and cautiously suggested that they reveal their relationship at least to a few close colleagues. Yui, however, was firm in her refusal. She believed the risks were too high for both of their careers and did not want to be the talk of the office. While Masugu agrees, he tries to plead with her for softer treatment during work hours, due to it being difficult to receive her harsh remarks during work. But Yui explains that her harshness was a defense mechanism to ensure no one suspected their connection, finding it difficult to be softer in fear that she might let loose and express her affection. She lists all the things they couldn't do in public, from sharing lunches to being overly friendly and even going out on dates. Masugu couldn't help but question whether they were really dating when their interactions were so restricted. But as Yui turns to him with a shy smile, he finds himself falling for her all over again with how adorable she is when she suggests that they could date in public while wearing masks. The following days were a whirlwind of activity for both departments. Masugu, who worked in accounting, found himself swamped with tasks. In the planning department, Yui saw an opportunity to visit him by volunteering to deliver paperwork. She tried to mask her excitement, but her friends noticed her eagerness and teased her about always acting so fierce when visiting the accounting floor. They decided to block her by playing a game to determine who would deliver the documents. Yui spends the rest of the day feeling down, having missed her chance to see Masugu during the busy week. At the end of one particularly tiring day, Masugu received a message from Yui saying she had gone home ahead of him. He replied, asking if he could call her, but there was no response. Smiling on his commute back home, he guesses that she must have fallen asleep early, exhausted from the week's workload. The next morning, Masugu rushes to the elevator with a stack of documents in hand, lamenting the never-ending busy period in his department. He pays half attention to Shizuno as he realizes that he'll probably be working overtime again and won't be able to get much sleep and nourishment. When the elevator doors open for another floor, he is surprised to see Yui entering the elevator. She appeared perfectly composed, her ability to hide her emotions in public a stark contrast to his own struggle, since he felt an immediate sense of relief the moment he saw her. As they stand side by side, Shizuno begins thanking Yui for her help with some tasks. Shizuno even brings Masugu into the conversation, asking for his opinion on Yui's skills. Masugu gave a measured response, carefully complimenting her without revealing too much. Yui's ears turn red, and Masugu notices her embarrassment despite her attempt to act as if she hates him and is above his compliment. As more people entered the elevator, the space grew tighter, forcing Masugu and Yui closer together. In the brief moment when no one was looking, they allowed themselves the small comfort of holding hands, a quiet moment of connection amidst the chaos, which was unfortunately stopped once they reached their floor. After a few days, the busy period finally ends, and Masugu and Yui call each other to plan a rare movie date since they barely had time to do couple-like activities since they began dating. Over the phone, Yui suggests that they start addressing each other by their given names in private, adding a new rule to their growing list of do's and don'ts in their relationship. Although Masugu feels nervous about the change, he agrees to try since they're a couple, and they should be addressing each other comfortably. On the evening of their date, Yui arrives at the meeting place early, having taken the time to freshen up and style her hair in a nearby restroom. Masugu, arriving straight from work, was struck by how pretty she looked. When he compliments her, Yui blushes deeply, struggling to maintain her composure since she isn't used to him complimenting her out in the open. Trying to get her to ease up, Masubu asks her what movie she has decided on, and she tells him it's the horror film they agreed on over the phone yesterday, but accidentally refers to him by his last name. Masubu is a bit put off that Yui is unable to speak his name, so he reminds her of the rule they made yesterday by calling her by their first name. Hearing her name come out of his mouth for the first time causes Yui to get embarrassed and shy all of a sudden, so she tells him to slow down for a second. Meanwhile, Masubu is happy that he got that sort of reaction from Yui, but also scolds himself for being a child about it since they are both adults. During the movie, Masubu finds himself distracted by the realization that they couldn't freely address each other by their first names despite yearning for this intimacy for almost 6 years. However, the film's intense scenes that echo through the movie room soon draw his attention. He realizes that they might have picked a film that was too gory to enjoy. At one particularly frightening moment, he felt Yui grasp his hand tightly. As they exited the theater, Masubu teased Yui about grabbing his hand during a film, making her blush once more. He decides to invite her for dinner, but before they can decide where to eat, Suya, a former co-worker and senior from Yui's university, notices Yui and calls out her name. Masubu notices him and quickly turns his head, hoping Suya wouldn't notice him. Saya greets Yui warmly and Masubu immediately grows anxious, worried that their secret might be exposed. However, Suya then notices Masubu and greets him, inviting Masubu to join them for dinner since he's willing to pay for both of his juniors. They reluctantly accept since they feel refusing him might seem suspicious, and Yui desperately messages Masubu to keep their relationship a secret. Throughout the meal, Saya compliments Yui on her achievements in the planning department, making her visibly pleased. Masubu couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy, recalling old rumors about Saya and Yui dating back when Saya still worked at their office. He notices how candid and happy Yui is when she speaks to Saya and notes that they always had a special relationship together when they were working in the same office. Masubu struggled to keep his emotions in check as Saya asked how he was doing in the accounting department. He responded politely, keeping the conversation neutral. When Saya mentioned seeing a movie earlier, Masubu and Yui awkwardly denied having watched the same film, their poorly concealed tension making Masubu worry that Saya might suspect that they were going out. However, Masubu decides that it might not be a bad idea to let Saya know that he and Yui are dating since Saya already belongs to a different branch. This might also quell the jealousy he feels inside once he lets his rival know that Yui is already his girlfriend. However, he decides not to reveal his secret when he feels Yui's trembling hands tug on his clothes. He comes up with a clever story of running into Yui, who was wondering what movies she should watch to relax. Able to resist the urge to claim Yui as his, Masubu was able to go through dinner as normal as possible. By the end of dinner, Sia bids them goodnight and gives them a wink before leaving, hinting that he knows something is going on between them. However, Yui seems oblivious, confident that Sia doesn't suspect a thing. Masubu decides to entertain her despite suspecting Sia of already being aware. Finally, alone, Yui gathers the courage to address Masubu by his first name for the first time. Masubu couldn't resist teasing her for taking so long, reminding her that she had called Saya by his first name effortlessly during dinner. This leaves Yui embarrassed, and she desperately tries to explain her reasoning for calling Saya by his first name. However, she didn't notice that Masubu started leaning closer in her panicked state. Just as he is about to kiss her, she stops him, reminding him of their agreement to avoid public displays of affection, especially since they might get caught by another acquaintance. Masubu agrees, but cheekily suggests they continue their business at his house. The next morning, Masubu wakes up to find Yui looking embarrassed yet endearing as she struggles to accept the reality of the night before. So he teases her relentlessly, enjoying her flustered reactions before it is ultimately time for them to get ready for work. As they wait for the train, Masubu notices that Yui is still wearing the same clothes as the day before, worried that people might spread rumors about her sleeping around if they notice. She reassures him that she has a spare outfit in her locker at work, confident that no one in the planning department would suspect a thing if she manages to change in time. To avoid being seen together at the office, they decided to take separate trains. As Masubu boards the first train, he spots Maria among the passengers and realizes she lives nearby, grateful she did not notice Yui with him. He glances back at Yui one last time before the train doors close, grateful that their relationship, though challenging, continues to grow stronger with each passing day. Another morning begins, and Masubu and Yui must once again hide their relationship from their colleagues. On their way to work, they accidentally bump into each other, putting them in a difficult situation. They can't decide whether to acknowledge each other or pretend they didn't see the other. Either way, it risks becoming an awkward moment if their office mates find out. They settle for a curt good morning before continuing on their way to the office. Yui cautiously puts on her usual fierce demeanor and hurls insults at Masubu, who responds with equal harshness to maintain their act. After a busy day at work, they decide to unwind at a bar. Masubu notices Yui stifling a yawn, clearly more exhausted than usual. She explains that her work is almost done, expressing her excitement about the launch of a new snack product she's spearheading, a significant milestone for her since it will be her first snack product. Despite her cheerful confidence, Yui secretly struggles with finalizing the product. The biggest hurdle is deciding on the perfect topping. A colleague from the planning department tells her that the accounting team has someone with an exceptional eye and taste for snacks. In the accounting department, Masugu helps Shizuno move boxes when Yui arrives. He assumes she's there to see him but feels disappointed when she approaches Maria instead. Yumi explained that she was directed to Maria for advice. Maria samples 2 versions of the product and takes a bite of each one. She confidently recommends the one with coconut toppings and also shares insights on the best markets to release the product. Yui, eager to absorb the advice, diligently takes notes, impressed by Maria's expertise when it comes to food. Surprised that someone from accounting has such talent, Yui compliments Maria and mentions her popularity among snack reviewers online. This flusters Maria, who sheepishly asks Yui to keep her secret. She confesses that her bubbly, snack-loving online persona contrasts sharply with her professional image at work, and she doesn't want people in the office to treat her differently due to the girly persona she is online. Amused by Maria's unexpected shyness and dedication to her profession, Yui reassures her, promising to keep the secret. Her kind words surprise Maria, who had always seen Yui as fierce and intimidating due to her sharp tongue. Whenever she saw Masugu in the department, Maria begins to wonder if Yui might actually be kind to others and only harsh towards Masugu. Maria then tells Yui that she understands why Yui is rude to Masugu, citing his impossible personality. She recalls how Masugu once scolded her and Shizuno for using inconsistent fonts and spacing, ignoring the fact that Shizuno is their superior. Yui agrees, but her face betrays her. A smile blooms as a memory sparks fond thoughts of Masugu's nitpicky nature during their private time together. When Maria lists more of Masugu's annoying habits, we can't help but think of them as endearing quirks she loves about him. Surprisingly, Maria doesn't catch on and assumes Yui simply hates Masugu because she's been agreeing with her the whole time despite the dreamy smile on her face. Relieved that her secret wasn't revealed, Yui begins to worry that everyone finds Masugu annoying in his department. However, just as she starts to feel bad, Maria starts complimenting Masugu, pointing out how he's always the first to offer a hand when someone needs assistance. In a small voice, Yui admits she already knows that, recalling the time Masugu helped her when she dropped a stack of papers in the hallway, an event that sparked her feelings for him. As Maria continues munching on snacks, she muses about how much she and Shizuno rely on Masugu. She mentions that his willingness to help often makes him easy to take advantage of. Yui's facade begins to crack as she fidgets and grips her pencil, complaining about how kind Masugu is. She starts rambling about his great qualities, prompting Maria to cut her off by putting her hand in front of Yui. Maria clarifies that she isn't romantically interested in Masugu and isn't sure how to continue the conversation, since it seems Yui is trying to convince Maria that Masugu is good for her. Yui freezes, worried Maria might have caught on to her feelings for Masugu. However, Maria seems to assume they simply have a competitive and complex relationship, noting how they join the office at the same time. Later that evening, Yui spends time with Masugu at his place. Both of them are cleaning up after dinner, where she notices that his shoulders have been bothering him. She offers to massage his shoulders and leads them to his room, where she immediately gets to work, removing the knots on his muscles. Masugu enjoys the massage and takes the opportunity to ask Yui why she needed Maria's help earlier. Yui vaguely explains that it was about the new product, but avoids mentioning Maria's secret snack review talents and her online persona. She adds that they had a brief chat about Maria's opinion of him, but also refuses to share what she learned about what his department thinks of him. Suspicious of Yui's sudden thoughtfulness, Masugu asks why she's being so considerate when she offers him a massage. Yui explains she noticed him moving equipment in the office earlier and wanted to reward his hard work since it might have caused his shoulders to ache. She then shyly admits it's hard to resist touching him at work, making Masugu's face turn red. She suddenly realizes what she's implying and gets embarrassed, her face turning an equal shade. Yui quickly tries to cover it up by suggesting that he give her a massage next, once she's done giving him his massage. A few days later, Yui walks into the planning department in a good mood, carrying a bag of improved snack samples based on Maria's suggestions. She distributes them to her team, asking for their feedback later. When she hands a snack to Kizuki, she notices he's struggling with his computer and helps him with a smile. Kizuki thanked her before returning to his work. Meanwhile, Masugu is in a less optimistic mood as he faces challenges in the accounting department as his accounts are rejected by the deputy director. Feeling dejected, he returns to his seat, where Shizuno and Maria try to console him, urging him not to take the criticism to heart. Frustrated, Masugu steps out to clear his head and grabs a coffee from the vending machine. He reflects on the situation, convinced the deputy director is simply out to bully him for doing a good job, when he only added 2 lines to the whole report. 2 of Masugu's friends find him in a distressed state, and he tries his best to mask how upset he is, though he is aware the expression on his face and body language betray him. Unfortunately, Yui also notices him. His friends tease him, saying he's about to get a scolding. Just as he assumes Yui won't approach him, she surprises him by doing the exact opposite. With a bright smile, she walks over to the group and hands out samples of her product, asking each of them to give their opinion on the snack so she can further improve it. As the group marvels at the snack's layers of flavor and the generous amount of chocolate, Masugu is taken aback when Yui approaches him directly to offer a sample. Hesitantly, he takes it from her hand and eats it, commenting that it's just fine. His lukewarm review irritates Yui, and she demands a more detailed critique. She tells him she's willing to accept even criticism since it'll help her improve. Masugu is impressed by her openness to feedback, something he struggles to face since he takes it as an insult. Following her instructions, he points out that the chocolate topping is a bit too much, making the snack slightly messy to eat, motioning the chocolate stain on his thumb. While his friends dismiss the issue as minor, Yui acknowledges that Masugu has a valid point. She admits that most people wouldn't want a snack that's inconvenient to eat. Thanking them for the feedback, she heads back to her department to implement the changes. Inspired by her determination, Masugu decides to return to his desk and redo his report, wishing to do his best since Yui deals with harsh feedback on a daily basis without complaint. After a long day, Shizuno invites Maria and Masugu out for drinks as a reward for their hard work. Masugu considers joining, especially since Yui often goes out with their department for drinks, and he's curious about the experience. Unexpectedly, their group runs into some members of the planning department, including Yui, at the same restaurant. They all end up in the same space, though seated at separate tables. Shizuno playfully nudges Masugu and Yui to interact, hoping a little liquid courage might ease the tension between them. Despite this, Masugu and Yui keep their distance, each staying with their respective groups. Masugu gets caught up in a conversation with Yui's friends and Kizuki, who is notably drinking juice instead of alcohol. When Kizuki excuses himself, the girls apologize for his reserved personality, explaining that he's new to their department. They share that Yui is the one who convinced Kizuki to join their outings. They praise her for taking good care of him and everyone else in the department, attributing it to her bright and welcoming personality. As Masugu listens to Yui's friends speak highly of her, he feels a swell of pride, knowing he's the one she's dating. Glancing over at her table, he's shocked to see it filled with empty beer glasses, a sure sign that Yui has clearly been drinking a lot. Suddenly, she gets up and heads toward the washroom, crouching down by the sink. Worried she might have overdone it, Masugu rushes to her side. He offers to help her back to the table so she can rest, but Yui stubbornly refuses, not wanting to cause concern among her office mates. Finding her defiance adorable, Masugu lightly teases her while rubbing her back to comfort her. Yui frets about the possibility of being caught, but Masugu reassures her that it's normal for colleagues to help each other in this situation. Realizing she may have overdrunk because of his presence, he apologizes. However, Yui, influenced by the alcohol, gets mad at him before relishing the cooling sensation of his hand on hers. Eventually, she declares she'll stay at his place for the night and drifts off to sleep, cold to the fact they are still in public. Just then, Kizuki exits the men's washroom, catching Masugu red-handed with Yui. Kizuki awkwardly explained that he'd been waiting for an opening to leave but didn't want to interrupt until Yui fell asleep. Kizuki awkwardly asks if Masugu and Yui are dating. Feeling there's no point in denying it, Masugu confirms their relationship. The next day, Masugu tells Yui that Kizuki knows their secret, causing her to panic. She eerily suggests locking Kizuki in the storage room and taking him out there to ensure he doesn't tell anyone, but Masugu calms her down, assuring her she's overthinking the situation. He tries to convince her that Kizuki doesn't seem like the type to spread rumors. While Yui reluctantly agrees, she still worries about the small chance he might tell someone, potentially damaging their reputations and careers, especially Masugu's, given how hard he's worked at the company. Moved by her concern for him, Masugu ruffles her hair and reassures her that as long as they act as they normally do in the office, everything will be fine. In the accounting department, Masugu notices that everything seems normal. To his relief, his report has even been approved. Spotting Kizuki by the vending machines, he approaches him casually and requests again that he keep their secret. Kizuki wonders why they're hiding their relationship when the office doesn't prohibit workplace romances. Masugu explains that they want to maintain a professional image, especially since so many people depend on Yui. Hearing the sincerity in Masugu's voice, Kizuki promises not to tell anyone, adding that he wants to protect Yui too. He remarks that seeing a different side of her was surprising, and Masugu responds by saying he finds her most charming that way. As Masugu walks away, he starts thinking about the future. The idea of marrying Yui crosses his mind, and he smiles, hoping he can stay by her side and witness her brilliance every day.